Following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Mick Shots.
Streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here are Bill Jones, Savannah Humoller, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
Well, it is Tuesday. I realize that. But I do believe, yes, there was a victory.
Go! Dallas Cowboys!
There were two victories.
Yes, there were.
Cowboys winners on Monday night. Rangers winners on Monday afternoon. Take that, Houston and L.A. And here we are. Well, some of us made it back from L.A. I was never in L.A., but Savannah was in L.A., Mickey was in L.A., Everson was in L.A., and who's here? We got Mickey, we've got Savannah, but no, we don't have Everson.
And you know who the diehards are.
That's right. Who has a commitment to excellence on this show inside the SWBC podcast studio. Tribute to the Pick to Click, Savannah Humoller.
Thank you.
It was me.
No, it's
It was
Savannah
you.
for making it back
Oh.
from SoFi Stadium last night.
I made it back,
Gets
too.
You didn't have to put any effort into your return
Just
trip,
rolled
right?
on.
I
the
just
plane.
rolled right in and
Yeah,
got
you
to
were on the
sleep at
charter.
4:30 in the morning.
You were on the charter, and you know how much more difficult it is to fly commercial out of
Especially
anywhere.
out of LAX.
I'm surprised I got out of there on time. Normally, I have a delay at LAX every single time.
Usually the delay is getting into LAX.
But 5 a.m. I was
5
I was
a.m.
there.
flight.
Way to
5
go.
a.m. flight lands at DFW at 10:30 and gets here in time for mix shots.
So
Now,
she
that's commitment.
wins pick to click.
Yeah, she is my pick to click today.
Thank you.
Yes, there you go.
For
Appreciate
today.
Yes,
Okay.
for
For
today. And since Everson keeps track of the picks to click for
No,
the game,
Savannah keeps notes.
Savannah kept it. Okay.
I'm pretty sure I was closest in with the points. I did 24-14 Cowboys.
Okay.
Oh, that was 10 points. Mine was 26-24, only 2-point difference.
Yeah, but you flew over on both.
That doesn't matter.
I'll circle back and get the notes.
Margin.
We'll get back.
I
there.
was way too high. I was 34-28.
How is it a 2-point difference?
Do what? I said my margin of victory was 2 points.
26-24?
It's
Isn't
2
that
points.
2
and it was-
points?
Yeah.
What am I missing?
Didn't they score 17?
Well, that did. I said the difference
The margin of victory.
was
He picked
3.
a 2-point margin of victory, and the actual margin of victory was 3 points.
Yeah,
And
thank
so
you
that's
very
what his
much.
claim.
On The Price is Right, they go like this too.
Yeah, but this ain't the price
Because
is
you
right.
can't go over on your
He
your
went
price.
way over.
I
Yeah,
think
you went
somebody
over.
last week, Everson, was claiming victory because he had the
He
margin.
was claiming that.
He had the margin right, and he didn't have the score.
Who'd you have?
anywhere
What
close.
player did you have? Your pick.
Oh,
to
I
click?
had the pick to click right too. Dak Prescott.
I had
I'll give you
CD
that.
Lamb.
I
had
had
CD.
CD doesn't do what he did unless the
117
quarterback.
yards.
The quarterback threw for 117 yards to him and scored a touchdown running and a touchdown passing.
That's right.
And had a 109 quarterback rating. There is no dispute here.
I had Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard.
Yeah, what did he do?
Who
he
can-
rushed.
He
Who
just
ran?
one big-
Who
he
put
just
all the
one
work
big
in on
play.
that 60-yard play?
Dak Prescott did because he avoided a sack twice and threw the ball to Pollard on the run.
And
by the
Pollard
way.
didn't avoid any tackle or anything.
And he
right?
had 27 yards rushing.
And if he would have caught that touchdown towards the end, that would have been great. But that was nearly impossible
That's why
right there.
Troy.
Oh, there you go.
That's
So
right.
He was in position for that touchdown, too. That's great.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard.
And he
There
didn't
you
catch
go.
it.
All right.
So good that we settled that.
Yes, we did settle it.
Double
And-
victory on this side of the table.
But the pick to click today is Savannah.
Yes.
And how about that win, and how much needed was that win? The biggest thing on the charter coming home was a sigh of relief.
No kidding.
going into a bye week.
I know.
As DeMarcus Lawrence said, he called the win a crucial win.
Mm-hmm.
It was very crucial. And McCarthy said, we did just enough to win. So, and he went on to say, we still got a ways to go. We're getting there. So, yeah, going on the road, winning, and I don't care how you do it. In this league, a win is a win is a win. And if anybody disputes that, we'll go ask the 49ers and the Eagles after this weekend.
I haven't done the research on this, but this has to rank right up there with the earliest in a season that there are no unbeatens left in it.
Were they popping champagne in Miami?
Yeah, there you go.
You know what occurred to me is what if the Dolphins were undefeated? Would they have been cheering for this version of the Dolphins or wanting to preserve their
It's a great question.
undefeated
you want to
season?
preserve your own.
Yeah. Even it's
Preserve your own.
50 years ago? Is that it? 72?
Yep. All right, so where do we start on this? It was a game that didn't start the way the Cowboys wanted it to start, but it ended the way the Cowboys wanted it to end.
Yeah, and credit to the defense. They did a pretty good number on the number 5 ranked offense in the league that the Chargers came into the game with. Held them to 272 points. I think one of the yards, I'm sorry. And one of the things we were concerned about was their rush defense after giving up 170 yards to the 49ers. And they held the Chargers to 53 yards rushing and turned Herbert into kind of a common quarterback. And even though he was only sacked once, they put a lot of pressure on him, and he finished with an 84 completion percent or quarterback rating, and his completion percentage was way down from what he was doing going into the game, completing 71% of his passes. So in this game, he completed 70% of his passes. So credit to the defense and making plays at the end just when they needed plays made. They didn't have a sack the entire game until Micah sacked him on that last possession after DeMarcus Lawrence did a heck of a job. I think it was 1st and 5, and he held Eckler to 3. Then they got the sack, and then Damone Clark got the pressure, and Stephon Gilmore the interception, and overcame 11 penalties for 85 yards. They ended up throwing 11. So they ended up throwing 20 flags in the game.
20 that were taken, penalties that were accepted.
Right? I bet that looked good on television.
Yeah. I was listening, as I always do, to Sirius NFL Radio on my drive in, and they were talking about what an entertaining game that was to watch. And what I was watching last night, I'm like, another flag? Another penalty? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was one after another.
And then that doesn't account for the one they missed. And we'll spend a whole segment on that punt. A bunch of BS I've ever seen.
Can you tell we're a little tired today, Bill?
Mickey,
We're here.
We spent all last week having to endure Mickey. Now this week we only get a couple of days. Savannah, are you here with us tomorrow? Or are you?
No, she's on the Mix crew tomorrow.
Okay, all right. Mm-hmm. We've got Christy Scales here with us tomorrow. Right. Yep, at noon. And so anyway, Mickey's much better after a win than he is after a loss all week. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the Mickey who's not.
They need me on the committee with the rules.
I agree.
To fix some things.
Uh-huh.
The other thing they need to fix is not have the teams crossing each other before the game starts for warm-ups. This isn't college where they all got to come out the same tunnel, right? And San Francisco pulled their same BS before the game with Cleveland, tried to start a fight, just like they did with the Cowboys, right? Got in the way of the kicker last year and did it again this year. They were doing some rehab, and it was right where Brandon Aubrey was warming up at San Francisco. And they did it again, and it was the same guys: Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, is it Brandon Ayuk?
Yep.
And one of their other offensive linemen get in a tussle with Cleveland before the game. So the Cowboys are coming out, and they're coming down their sideline. Well, the
This
Chargers.
is last night you're talking about now, Chargers.
Yeah,
okay.
the Chargers. Their DBs are doing some drill, and they're doing it on the Cowboys sideline right by the bench where the team was running through, and then that thing breaks out, right? And that's what they say they do all the time, but it's like, warm up on your own sideline. What do you got to do at the other sideline? Mm-hmm. Somebody said, well, it's half the field. And I go, well, why don't you divide the field down the middle instead of across the 50-yard line? That would save a lot of problems, right?
Mickey texted me. He was like, "Did you see what just happened?"
I was hoping she was right there.
I was on the other side, on the opposite side of the sideline, so I didn't
of the bench. Yeah,
of the Cowboys, and I didn't exactly realize what happened until later, but they were actually pretty scrappy still during the game.
Oh yeah,
you know, like it was just kind of they were going after it.
All right. So what was the scene like there last night?
I will actually paint the picture for the fan engagement.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk about how many Cowboys fans were there, it was nuts to me. It was like 50-50. And I almost kind of felt bad because the people that I went with, it was my sister and her friend. They're big Chargers fans. So I'm wearing my Cowboy stuff. They're wearing their Chargers stuff. Yes, thank you, Chris. And
but you were probably in the majority.
Yeah. But that's the thing is every other seat was a Chargers fan and then a Cowboys fan. Chargers fan, Cowboys fan. It was so loud from the Cowboys side. It was just crazy to me.
Oh, they started doing the chant when San Diego. I knew it. I'd do it when the Chargers had the ball, right? And it was like they almost had to go silent count. There were so many
you can
Cowboy
tell
fans
when
there.
Herbert is trying to hear in his headset in his helmet the play being called in, and he's having to cover his helmet, his ears to be able to hear what's being transmitted. When they've got the ball, obviously. And you can tell I had comments from people at work last night. They were saying, man, it sounds like it's a home game for the Cowboys. On television, it sounded that way. I can only imagine what it's like in person.
It was crazy. It surprised me. It really did.
Well, that's what used to happen when they played in San Diego. Because I remember the one year the Cowboys opened the season at San Diego, and they the Chargers put a premium on buying a single game ticket for that game with the Cowboys because they knew what was coming. And so to buy a single game ticket for that, you had to buy a single game ticket for another home game. They made you buy 2 games if you wanted the Cowboys game, trying to hold the
And
Cowboy
so what did it
fans
sound
down.
So were they able to hold the Cowboy fans down with that? Okay.
No. They must have had
There are much more Cowboy fans, though, at SoFi Stadium than there were at Jack Murphy Stadium. Right? Or not?
I don't know. It was
because you got to think from the Chargers' perspective. I mean, they're no longer San Diego's team, obviously, and so San Diego's bailed on them. They're not going to drive up to L.A. to support that, and then they haven't been in L.A. long enough to really establish a Charger fan base. And it's such a mixed bag of fans anyway in L.A. because they didn't have football for years, whatever, and so the Rams are kind of in the same boat themselves, even though they've been there in the past.
But at Jack Murphy, this was at a time, I'm talking in the 2000s, so they weren't very good, and so the Cowboy fans would overrun that stadium, and they were trying to hold it down. But anyway,
and there's so many Cowboys fans in California to begin
and I'll
with.
tell you what, I don't know if they can find players for stuff like that, but I did see after they broke everything up, the white hat, Land Clark, went and put the headset on, and actually had the tablet, the replay tablet out, and they were reviewing what happened. So I'm wondering if they could still find guys.
Oh, I think so.
Even though they didn't penalize anybody.
I believe they can throw people out of the game.
even in the
They were
warm-ups.
probably checking to make sure that just how bad the incident was and if punches were thrown.
Well,
and
there
that sort of
was, 'cause
thing.
Fowler connected
and whether
with a
it
helmet.
whether it merited an ejection because they were in the field of play and when it's happening.
I don't think they could have judged who started it because it just kind of exploded, like taking a match.
Eckler took a friendly fire.
Yes, he did. Lost his helmet.
He walked into that one, too. It was hilarious.
I think it was
actually.
Fowler.
Yeah,
if I
Fowler
remember
got him,
correctly.
but man, he walked into it trying to pull one of his players back, and Fowler swung and hit him in the face.
Wow.
There was a Cowboy, I don't know if it was a coach or a helper dude in the middle of it, and he got blasted.
A helper dude in the middle.
Helper dude.
Well, it could have been
I'm gonna tell
like
Cable
a-
that's what
Helper
you call
dude.
him.
It wasn't. No, it
Savannah,
wasn't.
That's the
Cable.
title today.
Savannah, that's what we are on this show. We are Mickey's
helper dude.
I'm a
Helper
helper
dudes.
dude. And
Yeah,
Dudette.
I'm cool with that.
okay. Well, we continue with Mick Shots. It's Mickey and his helper dudes when we come back in here in just a moment.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Back to Mick Shots.
K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing, the official roofer of the Dallas Cowboys. Mickey, do we want to get into the return?
Yes.
Should we kick it off with that?
Before we analyze the game and
Sure.
how well the Cops. So
Sure.
here is the pool report.
Okay, we're talking about the punt, the punt that was. How are you going to
They
describe?
called
this?
it muffed. He didn't muff it. He didn't catch it because he got run over. All right.
He didn't touch it.
Now, I understand what the ruling is because if you're engaged with the guy that's trying to cover the punt, then it's your fault if you get pushed into the returner. Well, if you go back and look at it, Tolbert wasn't engaged until Samuel engaged him and pushed him into Turpin. And not only did he push him into it, it could have been hands to the face or a face mask if you go back and stop it as soon as they did. They didn't call that. Now, the ruling on the field was Cowboys ball because they thought the Chargers player touched the punt first. And if the punting team touched the punt first, the ball, and it's loose, as a return team, you can pick the ball up without any hesitation and and pick it up and run. And if you happen to fumble it, then it goes back to the spot that you picked it up because they touched it first. And they did the pool report with Walt Anderson, who I'm guessing wasn't even there. So he's watching probably in New York.
NFL's Senior Vice President of Officiating, Walt Anderson.
So they asked him, why didn't fair catch interference apply? Because the punt returner was actually contacted by his own teammate who was actively blocking a Chargers player. And when a teammate of the returner is actively blocking that teammate, it's responsible for his own contact, even if it's into the player who signals for a fair catch. So no contact. So the contact was actually by the teammate of Dallas who had signal for a fair catch. So the Chargers initiated the review.
Well, they challenged it, right?
They challenged it, yeah. So it says here, there wasn't a ruling on the field of a change of possession. It was just a normal punt with an illegal touch. If it had ruled on the field initially that the ball was touched by the receiver, then it would have been awarded to the kicking team. Then it would have been a booth review to either confirm that's what happened, and it would have been reversed. Then we would have had changed it. But because, why is this stuck here? But because it was ruled on the field that it was not touched by the receiving team, that's why it was a coach's challenge. Okay, so where's the rest of it? Because they had to determine, I thought their guy dived on the ball first, and then it came out again, right? Well, they're basically saying,
they're saying
all he explained was it was a coach's challenge.
Right.
He didn't explain who touched the ball first. So look at that.
I'm watching it.
Didn't it look like the Chargers player touched it first?
I think you can make the case that Jalen Tolbert's left hand got on the football before the Chargers player, but I'm not. I'm just looking at one angle right here. The issue that I have with it is, okay, I understand that Jalen Tolbert is blocking Jasir Taylor, or they're engaged, but it's Taylor
who initiated
who forces the blocker back into Turpin, and it appears, at least on the review that the replay I'm looking at, that the defender makes contact with Turpin as well.
Because he ended up throwing his elbow.
I mean, there's a certain area that the defender that the receiver has the right to catch the football, and if the contact is initiated by the defensive player that destroys that window of opportunity that Turpin has, and he makes clearly he was contacted and he fell back, then that's fair catch interference.
But because Tolbert hit him initially, even though he was pushed
engaged,
by the defender,
because he was blocking.
So that's why
they're
they
saying
didn't
that
change
because the blocker was engaged with the Chargers player, that it's not fair catch interference.
Right.
But actually, it's the Chargers player who forces the Turpin not to be able to catch the football.
And they even get it.
It's his force of contact.
They even got it wrong on the play-by-play. It says Jalen Tolbert muffs catch. Well, he didn't muff the catch. So they're saying
he touched
the ball
it. He
first.
touched it before the Chargers player touched it. That's what they ruled on their review.
And you can't fault him. He doesn't know that.
Right. He thinks that the ball hit Turpin.
Right.
And so he's scrambling after it.
He can't see it.
Yeah.
And everybody else
and
is
just like the Charger player
is
scrambling for it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another rule change that needs to take place. Or tell them to look at what happened.
Right. I mean, the cause for the misplay was, and it was an interference that was forced by the Chargers player. It wasn't Tolbert, who was blocking on the play, who forced the fair catch interference.
Yeah, he got blocked.
Right.
Anyway.
I mean, so you can't block in front of the receiving, the punt returner?
Well, you better not get pushed into him.
Right.
But anyway, it was a big play in the game because they gave them the ball at the 20-yard line,
and then they got a
scored
15-yard penalty. They got him down to the 5-yard line on the next play, and then they score a touchdown.
And now it's a tie ball game.
Right. Yeah.
With
it was huge.
7:11 to go.
Mm-hmm. So
both of their touchdowns came on a short field.
Right.
Right. So they held them to field goals. So from a defensive standpoint, even though they couldn't seem to get Herbert on the ground, they played pretty well.
I think I saw 8 quarterback pressures.
Yeah.
So
and he avoided several sacks, right?
He really did. Actually, he was great at kind of realizing when he needed to run and just get out of certain situations. He was pretty spot on with that last night.
All right, let me ask you this question. Going into that game, if you were to rank, or not you, but in general, on a national scale, okay, what do you think the general consensus of opinion is on where these 4 quarterbacks rank coming into this weekend? Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, and Dak Prescott. How would they have been? How would they be ranked by the Cowboys fans at large across the nation? 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, and 10.
Yeah, I'm just saying
order.
those 4.
In that
so Brock
order.
Purdy, in fact, Brock Purdy was leading the league in quarterback rating coming in this weekend.
Right.
Okay. Jalen Hurts coming off a Super Bowl season, and Justin Herbert, as most people have him as a top 7, 8 quarterback in the league. I'm not sure. All right, coming out of the weekend, let's just say you had just the evidence of this weekend.
Right.
What those 4 quarterbacks did this weekend, how would they be ranked?
We reversed my order.
Exactly. Dak would be number 1.
We're reversing it, yeah.
Brock Purdy was very pedestrian, his numbers, when he did not have Deebo Samuel for most all the game and lost Christian McCaffrey, and his left tackle Trent Williams was playing on one wheel late in that game. And Hurts throws 3 picks, including a horrible interception that led to their loss at the end of the game. And then Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert had Keenan Allen wide open twice, not once, but twice in that football game that could have easily resulted in touchdowns. And missed them badly.
The one that Deron Bland fell down on?
That one,
That was
and
close.
the stutter go where he was wide open. It was
Oh, yeah.
Bland defending on that one too, late in the first half.
And he bit on the stop.
Right. And I mean, I could not believe, and Troy Aikman couldn't believe it either, that he on the first one especially he missed. But I mean, he missed on both of them badly.
Right.
And I'm going, wow. I mean, we hear fans, not saying necessarily Cowboys fans, but are critical of the quarterback that plays here on a week-to-week basis. I wonder, what do they say about Justin Herbert in L.A.?
See, I still think Justin Herbert performed pretty well. I mean, when you're comparing him and Dak Prescott last night, they both,
Dak outplayed him last night.
Dak definitely outplayed him. I just think Justin Herbert, he's still a very consistent quarterback. I just think he had a lot of pressure on him, which was shown from our defense.
He should have been sacked 5 times, and he was able to avoid.
That's why, but that's why you can't take a 1-week sample on players or quarterbacks in this league. They will have off days. There are circumstances. It's a long season, and so that's why you have to let the whole season play out before you're making judgments on, this guy can't play or that guy can play.
And for that very reason, I think it's a good thing that the Cowboys have their bye. Although everybody thinks, they can work harder now. Well, they'll practice once, probably.
If that.
Yeah, right? Because they're not practicing today, and it's already Tuesday. Wednesday, you might do a little something if they want.
My understanding is they're
going to let them go.
Yeah,
right?
and then they're back on
And
Monday.
then you got to have 4 consecutive days off.
So there'll be 4 consecutive days off will be Thursday through Sunday, and they're back here Monday.
Yeah.
Getting ready for a killer stretch of the season coming up here.
So you can do a little bit more on Monday, but that's it. And then Tuesday's a day off.
Right.
So, yeah, it's not like you work harder and fixed all the things that need to be fixed. And offensively, they still need things fixed because I don't want to finish the game, and my quarterback's the leading rusher.
Well, and the other thing, and we'll get to that when we come back here in a moment. One other thought on Justin Herbert. They play Kansas City this week, and I would not at all be surprised because this is what happens in this league. It's a bounce-back league, just like San Francisco has their best win of the year over the Cowboys the week before, and then they go to Cleveland and they lose, just like Philadelphia is unbeaten, and then they go to the Jets and they lose. Just like the Cowboys have their worst game of the season, they come back and they win over the Chargers the next week, a very tight fit. Well, you watch Justin Herbert will go to Kansas City next weekend, this coming weekend, and he'll have a 3-touchdown, 300-yard game, and the Chargers will play Kansas City a one-score game. I mean,
Bill, I'm with you. I'm with you. I agree.
This is what happens in this league. It's like 1 week, you can't do anything, and then the next week, you're all world.
I'd love to see the Chargers beat Kansas City.
Well,
I would love to see it.
And they're in the position that the Cowboys, if they want to get to where they got last year, which is in the playoffs, they went 10-7, then the pressure is on them at 2-3 to do something this week against the best team in their division, if not the best team, one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league. All right, we continue with more Mick shots in just a moment.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Back to Mick shots.
Come out to AT&T Stadium on February 24th for the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship Series. Watch the world's 2 best wheel racers converge for one night of nonstop action. Enjoy unprecedented access to the sport's biggest stars with an up-close view of their race bikes and team rigs at the Fan Fest. Tickets are on sale now at SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing partner of AT&T Stadium.
Okay, do big-time players make big-time plays at big-time moments in games?
Yes, they do.
Yes.
That's how the Cowboys won that game on that last series.
And we should talk about that with the amount of pressure. And I think you already pointed out that the Cowboys had 8 pressures or hits on Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. But they had no sacks until Micah Parsons. I think it was second.
It was 2nd and 2 at the 33-yard line.
Right. And Micah finally beat Slater, I believe it was, and got the sack for -8 yards.
So that was Micah's 6th sack of the season, and his 31.5 career sacks are tied with Myles Garrett for the 8th most by an NFL player through his first 39 games.
39 games. And it was huge because he was getting run past the quarterback most of the time. And we also should point out that here's how the Cowboys compensated for the loss of Leighton Vander Esch. Damone Clark, I'm guessing, played the most plays of his career. He ended up playing, I want to say, 72 snaps. So he missed one defensive snap, 99%, and that'll be the highest I bet he's played. Micah Parsons played more, 68 snaps, 93%. And Marquise Bell, who I thought had one heck of a game, 39 snaps, 53%. So what they were doing, basically, was they were playing Micah Parsons and Bell a heck of a lot more than normal. And Bell ended up, I think, second on the team to Clark with seven tackles, right?
Yes.
Clark led the team with 8 tackles. And for sure in the second half, because I kept marking it down, they started playing a true 4-man front, and they were lining Parsons up as a linebacker off the line of scrimmage. And a lot of times on the line of scrimmage with 5 guys on the line. So he ended up playing a whole bunch of snaps at linebacker, and they did a heck of a job of holding Eckler down to a reasonable amount of rushing yards, right?
How are they using Parsons as a linebacker? What was his?
He was standing up next to Damone Clark. So off the line, I guess he would have probably been the weak side.
With Marquise
linebacker.
Bell out there too?
No.
Okay,
when Bell wasn't out there. So it was one of the two usually at the linebacker spot.
So it was a 4-man front with 2 linebackers.
Yes, a normal 4-3 and nickel, right?
And that's what we wanted. That's what we kind of talked about.
That's what we talked about
last
right?
week. Yeah.
And I thought they did a good job against the run.
As evidenced by the stats.
Right. 53 yards rushing. They held Eckler to 14 carries for 27 yards. 1.9 a carry. His long was 6. Herbert had their long at 9, and it was a scramble. So
it's very similar to the Cowboys stats, rushing the football.
Neither team could run the ball.
Pollard was 15 carries for 30 yards, 2 yards a carry, and the Cowboys got the bulk of their rushing yards from Dak.
There was no holes. Mm-hmm. The offensive line has got to get better because Dak saved them about 3
You know what? It's
sacks.
happening all across the league. You look at the rushing stats across the league this weekend, and it was down across the board, and scoring was down too. There were only 2 teams had byes this week, so 30 of the 32 teams played. Mm-hmm. 25 of the 30 teams that played this week in Week 6 scored 21 or fewer points. There were only 5 teams in the entire league that scored more than 21 points this week, and only 2 teams had more than 30 points.
And why do we think that is?
I think it's because you're coming into Week 6. Every team had played at least 4 games. Most had played 5. And defenses adjust to what offenses are doing to start the season. And so they've got typically when you scout any game at this point in the season, once you get 4 games under your belt, you just go back the last 4 games. That's what the scouts usually do. You go back the last 4 games, and so you've got a good sample size there of the tendencies that offenses have and defenses adjusted to it. Now what will happen is offenses will tweak what they're doing, and it's a back and forth. You had some backup quarterbacks playing as well, but not any more than what you normally have in a Week 6 of a season. But and so that also affects it, and there's some weather around the country too. But it's still unusual to have 25 out of 30 teams that scored 21 or fewer points.
So before Savannah, there's a bunch of unscouted looks because you don't know what teams are doing. Mike McCarthy's big on that. Now you got scouted looks. So Bill's right. Now watch the offenses have to adjust. Dak's been sacked 8 times in these last 2 games. He got hit 6 times, and they had 7 tackles for losses. So they're, and Khalil Mack's good, right? Joey Bosa's good, although he didn't play all that much. His snaps were...
He wasn't out there a lot.
I was saying his snaps were way down.
It was somewhat of a surprise that he was active anyway.
30 snaps he had.
A toe injury as well as a hamstring injury.
But they did a good job of putting pressure on Dak. And so this offensive line, now it's the second time they've played together. They've practiced together. They need to buckle down. Tyler Smith didn't have a really good game. He struggled some. And you're going to struggle with Khalil Mack. Just last week he had 6 sacks. So that's got to be better.
Who are you giving game balls to? 14.
14 for sure.
Marquise Bell.
He could always give it to the quarterback, but Brandon Cooks was pretty darn good.
I was about to say Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks.
That was your guy, wasn't it? Was that your pick to click?
No, mine was Tony Pollard.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard.
That was a heck of a route he ran for the touchdown. Great pass by Dak. But
Great block by Pollard on Derwin James.
Yes,
who was
picking
blitzing.
up the blitz.
That could have affected that. He may not have got home because Dak was backpedaling and Dak was buying time for Brandon to clear on the crossing route.
Because he was a crossing. He had motion to the right and then went all the way back to
CD went in motion. So this was another example of putting a guy in motion, and it tips off what the way the defense is playing. They were in man because the guy was following CD, and so Brandon started on the right side of the formation. He was tight on the right side, basically. He was a few steps away from the offensive lineman. Gallup on the left side. They both ran crossing routes, and so Dean Marlowe, who was defending Cooks, he didn't defend it poorly or anything.
Right.
Cooks just had a step on him, and Cooks has enough speed, and so Dak just had to backpedal and buy time for him to get to where he needed to go, and made a great throw.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, Pollard had to pick up Derwin James, which he did. He was blitzing from the right side.
Did you get faked out on Dak's touchdown run?
You know what? I didn't see it live. Because
I did.
I did too.
I was like, what just happened?
I had other responsibilities. We have a 7 o'clock newscast, and I was
$7 o'clock?
Yes, we don't have a 6 o'clock newscast anymore. We have a 7 o'clock that goes an hour on TXA 21, and so I was talking Rangers at the beginning of the game. I'm talking Rangers, so I had to play catch up after the first series of the game, so I didn't see it live.
I thought they had dropped Pollard for a loss. I was trying to find my notes, and it was the.
And then all of a sudden, Dak was in the end zone.
It was the defensive end, 40.
It was an 18-yarder.
Tupulutu or something like that. I got it right. He put a hit on Pollard, right? And I'm going, oh God, why do they keep running that play? There goes Dak prancing into the end zone, right?
Yep,
and I heard Brad's call on it, and he called Pollard got stopped for a 5-yard. Oh, excuse me, my bad.
You know what? That's something that I'm sure they talked to Dak about this past week. I mean, there was early in that San Francisco series, there was a zone read like that.
Right.
That Dak had running room, but he gave the ball to Pollard instead. And they probably gave him, hey, take a look at this because they're pinching down on what we're trying to do running, and there's open space for you, and especially in that situation with the 4th down play.
Yeah, even last night in Dak's press conference, somebody asked him, hey, what did you do in those moments when you knew you needed to run? And he said, based on everything that happened against the 49ers, he knew he needed to make a couple more of those rushing plays. So
use his feet, right?
Yeah, he knew he needed to step up a little bit more and get some runs in him.
I can't remember if it was the first series or the second series against San Francisco. There was a play that there was a lot of running room for Dak, but he
tried to throw it.
Or actually, he handed off on the play that I'm talking about.
All right.
But
that all was good until the tush push.
Yeah.
Just run a play. I don't think they've tried that before.
I don't think so either. I think
maybe they won't ever again, since it was less than a yard and he didn't even hardly get to the line of scrimmage. They asked Dak about it, and Dak said they needed to push better.
That's right. Needed to push my tush better.
It reminded me of when the indoor practice facility came down, and we were trying to get out the door, and I was like third or fourth deep, and my reaction was, you guys need to push better because they can't get the door open.
And by the way, who's the unsung star of this game?
Brandon Aubrey.
That's exactly right. I mean, that guy is
16
money.
straight.
16
and
for
think
16.
about it, because San Francisco, with their rookie kicker, was in the same position from 2 yards further, 41 yards.
Third-round pick, Jake Moody.
And Moody missed it. I think those were his. I think he missed an earlier one, too.
Yep.
Because they were both perfect, and he missed 2, and Dak's now 16 for 16.
You know,
Brandon Aubrey. Sorry.
You know,
did you hear what?
Yeah, Butter.
Dak
What?
They asked
was
Dak
asked
about Aubrey, and he says, "Oh, Butter Aubrey."
They call him Butter Aubrey.
That's what he said. He goes,
So
"He's
smooth.
Butter. He's smooth."
He's been like that ever since he walked in the door.
Oh, that's great.
And you want that with your kicker, where
Right.
it's like an automatic.
And he later said, he goes, and by the way, he goes, he's an athlete, right? He played professionally in soccer. He's an athlete. He's just an athlete that's kicking. And so, yeah.
Round draft pick. Another first-round draft pick on this roster.
That's right. He should have been, right?
Butter.
Well, he was.
Butter.
MLS.
Butter.
Yes.
MLS, he was
That's
first-round
right.
pick.
That's right.
All right, so that does it for this crew on Mick Shots. And we meet again tomorrow at noon.
Oh, you forgot to ask me. See, when they win, he doesn't ask me. How did Missouri do this weekend?
Oh, did they play?
Yeah, see?
Who did they play?
Did they win?
Vanderbilt again.
They went to Kentucky and kicked their butts.
Same
There
team
you
that
go,
Georgia beat
Mickey.
65-14 last
That's right.
week.
Well, they beat them 38-21.
Well, congratulations.
How about
Very
that?
Good. All right, and so we will, most of us, will see you tomorrow at noon. Go
Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?